I changed my claim, so just listen closely for. So in light of the recent Ferguson shootings and stories of SWAT raids causing baby casualties, I'm here today to talk about how military-grade equipment is negatively changing the way the public views law enforcement. My points here today are the 1033 program not fulfilling its original purpose, which I'll explain to you what is later, the police access to high-grade military weapons, increasing the risk and possibility of incidents occurring, and as a result of this, how the police view themselves change. So first is the 1033 program. In the past, it's called the 1028 program. It's a program made by the Department of Defense that hands over secondhand military equipment over to the police. Now, the original purpose of this program was to assist on the war of terror after the 9/11 attacks and the war on drugs, but it no longer fulfills that purpose. And so, since 1997, approximately $4.3 billion worth of military equipment has been transferred to the police. Like, no doubt, most of this equipment has seen proper usage and have great usage, but things like helicopters, trucks, and armored personnel carriers cost tax dollars to maintain and could be easily seen by the public as a waste of their taxpayer dollars. And also concerning this is that some have heavily abused the program in the past. There was a story that I saw online about how news story that I saw online about how certain police departments were caught in the past abusing this program by selling police weapons and guns in auctions to boost their budget, and leading up to 30 revocations in one state only. My second point here is that this program that grants police access to high-powered military weapons, and this increases the risk and possibility of incidents occurring. Police receive rifles, grenade launchers even, but receive little to no training with their usage, leading to incidents. There's an old military saying that says that you don't point a gun at someone unless you intend to shoot them, but evidently the police here have not gotten that message. Small counties and almost all departments are included in this category. There were stories about how coroner offices had received hard rifles and trucks when there were no legitimate needs or reasons behind this. The clause also furthering this is that there's a clause in the 1033 program that states that the police departments must use this equipment within a year of receiving it, or they must be returned. And it also states that recent studies also state that the government cannot tell the police how to use these weapons, but it is up to the law enforcement offices to determine this. And this in turn causes situations where SWAT raids and full-blown situations where guns are used are mostly used for trivial matters such as minor drug raids or serving warrants. And my third point here is as a result of these new weapons, how the police view themselves change. The police, because of these weapons, the police no longer view themselves as the keepers of the peace and not protecting and serving, but instead they view themselves as soldiers. Many police chiefs have said in the past that the most important thing for the police department is to build trust with the community they share, but that's not happening because of this. Because of these new weapons, the police are growing more aggressive in their duties and becoming increasingly authoritarian. Therefore, citizens and residents alike are less inclined to report crimes, increasing crime rate. This also causes distrust in the police to grow as police actions become increasingly excessive. More crimes are committed, and a cycle is created. In a recent American Civil Liberties Union study, it was confirmed that the use of weapons and military weapons tactics escalate violence instead of instead of stopping it. This concludes my presentation.
Don't stand there. It makes you look like a target. And I always feel a little bit awkward about that. All right, Isaac, I think that you did a nice job identifying your proposition. There was a pretty good preview of what the structure was going to be. They sounded like they were written as claims. I think you need, Gesundheit, I think you needed to be a little bit more consistent about citing those claims in the body of the speech and giving us a signpost as you got to each one of those and then transitioning between those points, because it sounds a little less organized in the body of the speech than it did at the beginning of the presentation. I know what the assumptions are in your argument. Here's the thing that I think is a little problematic. You don't really document any proof for those assumptions. You make claims, for instance, that there's increased risk that this material will be used because they have it. And I don't get examples of that. I don't have an authority who says that that's what's happened. There's no statistical information that suggests this. It just seems to be a presupposition. There's a claim later in the speech that says SWAT raids are caused by access to this information or this equipment. And I'm wondering, okay, well, have you got an example where they're doing these kinds of things? You make a vague reference to SWAT raids for minor drug offenses. Well, give us one of those illustrations. Talk about the frequency with which that's happening. There are plenty of critics out there who are suggesting this is true. Why are you not assigning them credibility and telling us why their opinion matters on these points? As it is, it just seems like you're kind of summarizing what the claims are without proving those particular claims. I did think that your third point was very clearly labeled, and I appreciated that. At the end, you had one general reference to the ACLU in a study that says that it escalates violence. So that's a little bit vague, but at least it's a lot more specific than some of the other information that you had, which was many police chiefs, recent studies, there are stories, and police departments say, which are all vague references at best. I think there's a little bit of a problem here in citing the research that you've done for the presentation. So if you've got that data, if you've done that research, then it needs to be cited from a source, and I'm not getting any of that in the presentation, just kind of these abstract pieces of information that don't necessarily prove the conclusions that you're presenting. So I think that's a little problematic. I thought you did a pretty reasonable job presenting it. You need a summary at the end to kind of clean up the organizational structure in the speech. I think that, one last chance to sell your idea would be really helpful, and if you could build those claims very coherently at the end, that might overcome some of the weaknesses of the internal structure. Thank you.